Today's episode is brought to you by Sincerely Shalia, my very own greeting card line, written and designed by me for real love and real life. Whether you need the perfect card to celebrate love, apologize, or say what's on your heart, Sincerely Shalia has you covered. So skip the generic and say it your way. Check out my full collection at shaliavinny.com/greeting cards and find the card that speaks for you. I can't wait till you guys check them out. And don't forget to let me know what you think. I love you guys. Hello and welcome to the Love This Way podcast, the show that exists to help men and women everywhere to be better at love. There's never any gender wars or back and forth, just great tips to help you find and sustain the love of your dreams, because love is a journey, but you still need direction. So grab your tribe and get ready, because on each episode, we're going to be talking about our real life issues, answering tough questions, and building solid relationships with one another as we heal, learn, and grow. I'm your host, your girl, Dr. Shalia Vinny, and today's show has us tackling something that might explain a lot more about your life than you ever realized. I mean, we've all heard about childhood trauma, but what is it for real? You're going to want to hear this one. Hey, my babies. Welcome back to another episode of Love This Way. Now, I want to talk about something that might explain more about your life than you ever realized, because we always hear the term childhood trauma. But what do you actually know about it? Like, what does it really mean? Because most people assume that trauma only applies to extreme cases like abuse or neglect or abandonment. But what if I told you that some of the deepest wounds don't even come from what happened to you, but more from what didn't happen for you? So today I want to dive into the 10 childhood traumas that shape us the most. Some are obvious and some you might not even realize count as trauma. Then we're going to talk about the silent wounds that don't get enough attention. And then finally, I want to talk about how you can start healing, because recognizing these patterns could really change the way you love, trust, and see yourself forever. So we got to get into this. I first want to talk about the 10 ACEs, the childhood traumas that are going to change everything for you. So back in the 90s, researchers did this groundbreaking study on what they called adverse childhood experiences, or what we call ACEs. What they found was shocking, because the more of these experiences that you had, the greater your risk for depression, anxiety, relationship struggles, and even physical health issues later in life. These childhood traumas always fall into three categories: abuse, neglect, and household dysfunction. So when we talk about abuse, this is where someone actually harmed you, like physical abuse, where you were hit, slapped, or harmed in any way; emotional abuse, like constant belittling, yelling, insults, or being made to feel worthless; and then, of course, sexual abuse, which is any unwanted sexual contact as a child. But we still got to talk about neglect, because there are your basic emotional or physical needs as well that may not have been met, like physical neglect, not having enough food, clothing, or a safe home. Or, of course, emotional neglect, never feeling loved, supported, or cared for emotionally. Then when we talk about household dysfunction, this is when the environment you grew up in was chaotic or unsafe. Growing up around addiction, for example, a parent or caregiver who struggled with drugs, or maybe you witnessed domestic violence, seeing one parent hurt or abuse the other. Maybe there was a parental mental illness. Maybe one of your caregivers suffered from severe depression, anxiety, or any other mental health conditions. Then we don't talk about this enough, but what about those that lost a parent, maybe through divorce, separation, or even death? Then, of course, there's those that have incarcerated parents. Did you grow up in a household where one parent was in jail or in prison? Here's what's important to understand. Having even one of these experiences can impact you for life. But it's not just about what happened, it's about how it shaped you. If you felt unsafe, unseen, or unworthy as a child, that belief did not just disappear because you became an adult. But what about the childhood traumas that aren't even on this list? Did you know there's actually more? Because what if your pain wasn't from abuse or neglect? But what if it was something more subtle? And that's where we got to go next. Now, I want to talk about those silent childhood wounds that a lot of people don't really talk about because not all trauma is loud. Some of it is quiet, invisible, and deeply ingrained. You may have never thought of yourself as being traumatized, but let's talk about the subtle experiences that can shape your entire approach to love, self worth, and relationships. Number one, I want to talk about parentification. You weren't allowed to be a child. You took care of your parents emotionally or physically or both, and now you feel responsible for everyone's happiness. Number two, emotional neglect. Yes, again, but not being abused, but also never feeling emotionally nurtured. Maybe your parents provided everything except for warmth, validation, and support. Now, as an adult, you struggle to express emotions or connect deeply. Number three, perfectionism pressure. Yes, perfectionism is a real thing because your worth was tied to achievements. If you weren't excelling, you felt invisible. Now you equate love with performance, not presence. Number four, lack of healthy love models. You never saw a successful loving relationship. Maybe your parents were together, but they were miserable. Or maybe no one in your family ever had a lasting, healthy love. Now you don't even know what to look for in a partner. Number five, cultural or family expectations that silenced you. You weren't allowed to question, express, or go against the grain. So now you struggle to set boundaries or prioritize your needs. Now, here's the thing, you don't have to have a big trauma story for your child to have shaped you. In any of these experiences that you see yourself in, that means that they could be why you love the way you do, why you struggle with trust, and why you self sabotage, or why you constantly feel like you're not enough. But awareness is powerful. And now that you know, you get to do something about it. So, next, I want to talk about how we can do that. Hey, friend, if you're tired of those generic impersonal greeting cards, I've got you covered. Sincerely Shalia is my very own greeting card line, written and designed by me to help you say what's really on your heart. Whether it's love, apologies, or just because, these cards speak for you. Skip the cookie cutter messages and send something real. Check out my collection at shaliavinny.com/greeting cards and find your perfect card today. So we've been discussing childhood trauma, the ones we know and the ones that are a little more subtle, and of course what they look like. But I don't want us to just use our traumas as a crutch or an excuse. I want us to face them so that we can heal. So I want to give us 5 steps to start healing from our childhood trauma right now. Number 1, I want you to recognize it without shame. Your past doesn't make you broken. Ignoring it is actually what makes you broken, because many people spend years pretending that their childhood didn't even affect them. But pain doesn't just disappear. It resurfaces in different ways. So acknowledging your experiences isn't about blaming your past, it's about freeing yourself from it. Accepting your story is the first step to rewriting it on your own terms. Number 2, you've got to identify how it shows up in life today, because trauma does not stay in the past. It leaks into the present. So do you struggle with trust? Push people away when they get too close? Constantly feel like you have to earn love or prove your worth? These patterns are not random. They're survival tactics that you picked up along the way. So I want you to pay attention to the way you show up in relationships, friendships, and even the way you speak to yourself, because your wounds will keep running the show until you decide to confront them. Number 3, you've got to reparent yourself. What did you need as a child that you didn't get? More love? More validation, more emotional safety? Healing means learning to give those things to yourself now. If no one ever confronted you when you were scared, or they didn't comfort you when you needed it the most, you've got to start practicing self-soothing. If you grew up believing that love was conditional, you've got to remind yourself every day that you are worthy just as you are. You cannot go back and change your childhood, but you can give yourself the care and security that your younger self needed so badly. Number 4, you've got to surround yourself with healthier love. Because if you never saw healthy love growing up, you got to seek it out now. You got to read books about secure relationships. You've got to watch couples who communicate with kindness and respect. Pay attention to people who handle conflict without yelling or shutting down. Healing is not about just unlearning the bad, it's about replacing it with the good. So the more you expose yourself to examples of love that is patient and safe and nurturing, the more you're going to realize that you don't have to repeat what you grew up with. And then number 5, you've got to rewrite your story. Your childhood shaped you, but it doesn't have to define your future. The patterns you inherited do not have to be the ones you pass on. You're allowed to outgrow the survival mode that once protected you. You're allowed to choose relationships that feel safe rather than familiar. The love you accept now can be different from the love you grew up with. And that choice, that's where your power is. Now, if you've ever sat with yourself honestly and thought to yourself, why am I like this? I want you to start here. The way that you were loved as a child is the blueprint you carry into adulthood. But here's the truth. Your past is not a life sentence. Let me say that again. Your past is not a life sentence. You can heal. You can rewire your mind, your heart, and your understanding of love. You can teach yourself what safety, trust, and true connection feel like, even if you never experienced them before. Because at the end of the day, your childhood may explain you, but it does not have to define you. So from this moment on, you've got to be gentle with yourself. Give yourself a little bit of grace. Love yourself the way you should have been loved. Because that version of you, that child that's inside of you still deserves love. And now it's your job to give it to them. Now, if you need more help, you can always go to shaliavinny.com and book a one-on-one session with me. I love you, and I'll see you in the next episode. Today's show is brought to you by Sincerely Shalia, my greeting card line. Please rate the show on your favorite streaming platform, share it with one person who you think needs to hear it, and ask them to do the same. Remember, good, better, best. Don't you ever let it rest. To your good is better, and your better is best. Until next time, your friend and motivator and relationship strategist, Dr. Shalia. Bye.